My name is Hannah Carlisle. I'm 28, and before all this happened, my life was quiet. Not in a sad way, in the way you earn after years of choosing discipline over chaos. I owned a two-bedroom condo in a solid neighborhood outside Denver, nothing flashy, but it was mine. I bought it 3 years ago when the market dipped, the kind of purchase my dad would have called smart instead of lucky. He drilled it into me when I was young. Own your space. Build equity. Don't bleed money into rent forever. I'd watched too many people drift through their 30s like they were renting their own future, paying month to month for nothing permanent. I didn't want that, so I saved hard in my early 20s, lived with roommates longer than I liked, drove a beat-up Civic that sounded like it was coughing every time winter hit, and when a foreclosure popped up in a neighborhood I'd been stalking online for months, I jumped. 20% down, closed in 3 weeks, no drama. The place, though? A disaster. The kitchen looked like it hadn't been updated since the late 90s. Laminate countertops, particle board cabinets, and a sink that always smelled faintly metallic no matter how many times I scrubbed it. The bathrooms had that vintage pink tile people claim is charming until they actually have to live with it. Carpet everywhere. Carpet that somehow smelled like wet dog despite being bone dry. I spent 8 months renovating it myself. Not because I'm a natural contractor, but because I'm stubborn and I refuse to be helpless. I learned everything through YouTube. Some guy named Steve taught me drywall, like he was narrating a war documentary. Another channel showed me how to grout tile without cracking it 2 weeks later. I made mistakes. So many. Painted myself into a corner twice. Wired outlets backward once and didn't realize until a lamp flickered like it was possessed. I even cut into a water line on a Saturday night and had to call an emergency plumber at 9 p.m., standing there in soaked socks, whispering, "Please don't judge me," like the plumber was a priest. But by the end, it was beautiful. Hardwood floors refinished under the old carpet, a clean white subway tile shower, built-in shelves in the living room for books and camera gear. It wasn't perfect, but it had my fingerprints on it, proof I could take something broken and make it solid again. My best friend Vincent helped with the bigger projects. He's a carpenter, the kind of man who shows up with tools when you mention a problem, not opinions. We met freshman year in college when we got assigned as roommates, and somehow survived despite being opposites. He woke up at 5 a.m. like a cheerful psychopath, and I studied until 2 a.m. like a goblin. Vincent is blunt in a way that feels like love. He'll tell you you're being an idiot while handing you the exact wrench you need to fix the mess you made. So yeah, my life was stable. Paid off truck, solid 401k, low expenses, weekends split between mountain biking and home improvement projects, the kind of routine some people call boring, but I called peaceful. And then there was Aiden, my boyfriend of 4 years, 26. I met him at a housewarming party, mutual friends, plastic cups, loud music. He had this easy smile that made you feel like you'd known him longer than you had. He worked in retail management at a trendy clothing store in the mall, one of those places with music too loud and prices too high for a basic t-shirt. At first, he was sweet in a way that felt sincere. He laughed easily. He made effort. He'd come over after work smelling faintly of cologne and store lighting, flop onto my couch, and tell me stories about customers like it was stand-up comedy. For the first 2 years, we were good. Normal dinners, movies, occasional hikes when I could convince him it wouldn't destroy the vibe. Road trips to visit his family. He'd talk about the future in soft, casual ways, moving in together. Someday, maybe engagement, eventually. He even sent me screenshots of rings once, like he was joking, but I'd caught the way his eyes lingered on my reaction. Then around year 3, something shifted. Small comments at first. He'd wrinkle his nose when I mentioned my weekend plans, mountain biking, replacing a light fixture, sanding a door. He'd compare us to other couples, his friends going to fancy restaurants every weekend, spontaneous trips, expensive gifts. It was always framed like a joke, but jokes are just truths wearing softer clothes. He started spending more time with his coworkers, especially Kelsey. She was the type who lived for drama like it was oxygen, always in the middle of some messy dating situation, always the victim, always somehow betrayed by a man she'd been flirting with while still texting 3 others. And every time Aiden hung out with her, he'd come back with new ideas about what our relationship was missing. We weren't spontaneous enough. We weren't adventurous enough. We were too comfortable. I suggested date nights. Weekend getaways, new routines. But that wasn't what he meant. Something else was brewing. I felt it the way you feel a storm before the clouds show up. Then came that Tuesday night in March. I got home around 6:30 p.m., drained from traffic, ready for a quiet evening. I walked into my condo and found Aiden sitting on my couch with a look I'd never seen on him before. Not angry, not sad. Determined, like he'd rehearsed something in front of a mirror and was finally ready to perform it. He sat dead center, hands folded in his lap, wearing what I later recognized as his important conversation outfit. Nice jeans, fitted sweater, the kind of look people wear when they want to seem mature and reasonable. I didn't even take my shoes off. I just set my laptop bag down and sat across from him in the recliner. He started with the classic line that never leads anywhere good. I've been thinking a lot about us. I didn't interrupt. I'd learned that interrupting only stretches speeches longer. He went on about how he loved me, how I was his best friend, how we'd been together since he was young, how he hadn't really experienced life. The words sounded borrowed, like he'd picked them up from an article or from Kelsey's mouth and tried them on. Then he dropped it. I think we should try an open relationship. The air in my condo went oddly still, like even the walls paused to listen. He rushed to explain, nothing serious, just seeing what's out there. Plenty of couples do it. It can make you stronger. He said it with that forced confidence of someone pitching an idea they desperately need you to agree to. I stared at him for a long moment, letting silence do what it does best. Then I asked, very calmly, "Do you already have someone in mind?" His face flushed instantly. Dead giveaway. He tried to deny it, said it wasn't about anyone specific, just the concept, just freedom, just growth. Aiden. I said his name softly and it landed like a pin to a balloon. He exhaled and admitted it. There's this woman, Kylie. She comes into the store sometimes. We've been talking. Of course. Not a random hypothetical, not an abstract philosophical urge for exploration. A person. A target. He said he hadn't done anything because he wanted to do this right. Like asking permission before betrayal deserves a medal. He started listing rules. Honesty, communication, still prioritizing us, still date nights. I listened, nodding, absorbing every word like I was taking notes in a meeting. When he finally paused, he looked at me like he was waiting for my breakdown. For tears, for begging, for anger. Instead I said, okay. His eyes widened. Relief flooded his face so fast it was almost embarrassing. Then, because I could feel the exact shape of his plan, I added, but it goes both ways. The relief vanished. It was almost comical watching his expression drain in real time. You mean you would... I said, still calm, if this works for you, it works for me. Equal rules. He swallowed, blinking too fast. And in that moment, I saw the truth clear as glass. He didn't want an open relationship. He wanted an open door for himself, and a locked one for me. And I had just shoved both doors wide open. Aiden tried to recover fast. He nodded like my condition didn't rattle him, like the equal rules were obvious and totally fine, like he hadn't just pictured himself as the only one exploring. But his mouth was doing this tight thing, corners pulled slightly down, like his face wanted to argue, even if his words couldn't. Yeah, he said too quickly. Of course, equal. I smiled like I believed him. Inside, something had already shifted. Not rage, not devastation. More like clarity. When someone you love looks you in the eyes and says they need the freedom to test other options, a wire snaps. Not the whole system, just one crucial connection, one that used to carry trust like electricity. And once it's gone, you can't pretend the lights are still on. That night after Aiden left, I texted Vincent. Me, you busy? He called immediately. No hello, no what's up. What did he do? He demanded. I told him everything. The couch, the speech, the open relationship. The way Aiden's face gave him away when I asked if there was someone specific. Vincent let out a slow breath. So he's asking permission to cheat, he said flatly. I said yes. A full beat of silence on the line. Hannah, he said, like he was trying to decide whether to scold me or applaud. Why? I leaned my head back against the kitchen cabinet, staring at the ceiling I'd repainted twice because the first shade came out looking like hospital mint. Because I want to see what he thinks I am, I said quietly, and I want him to see what he's about to lose. Vincent gave this low chuckle, his approved chuckle. Okay, he said, I'm in, but we're doing this smart. The next few days were surreal. Aiden became a version of himself I hadn't seen in months. Affectionate, attentive, suddenly eager to prove we were solid. He cooked dinner twice, which was rare because he always claimed cooking stressed him out. The first meal was elaborate, something with roasted vegetables and a sauce he definitely found online. He kept watching my face like he expected guilt to claw its way out of me. The second dinner came with candles. Candles. In my condo, where we had eaten pizza on the couch for 4 years and called it romance. He leaned across the table, touched my hand, and said, "This is going to be good for us." I watched him like I was studying a stranger wearing my boyfriend's skin. "Yeah?" I asked softly. He nodded too hard. "Yeah, we'll come back stronger, more appreciative." It sounded like he was trying to hypnotize himself. And the whole time I kept thinking, if you have to convince someone something is healthy, it probably isn't. Thursday night, he told me he was going out with Kylie on Friday. Dinner and a movie. He said it casually, but his eyes were sharp, watching for my reaction like he was waiting to see if I'd finally collapse into jealousy. I didn't. "Cool," I said. "Have fun." His brows knit. Confusion flickered. It wasn't the response he'd practiced for. Then he asked, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" I didn't even pause. "Vincent and I have plans," I said. "We're checking out a place downtown. Might hit a few spots after." The smile on his face wobbled, like it couldn't find solid ground. "Who else is going?" he asked. I shrugged. "People." That answer made something inside him twitch. Friday came fast. I watched Aiden get ready for his date like I was watching a documentary about a species I no longer belong to. He changed outfits 3 times, checked his hair in the mirror like he was preparing for a job interview, sprayed cologne I'd never smelled before, the kind that tries too hard to be expensive. He was putting in effort for Kylie, effort I hadn't seen directed at me in months. When he finally walked to the door, he leaned in to kiss me. There was excitement in his eyes, and guilt hidden underneath it like bruising. "Love you," he said. I hummed, non-committal. And as soon as his car pulled out of my parking spot, I grabbed my jacket and texted Vincent, "Now!" He picked me up 20 minutes later, grinning like we were about to pull off something illegal. "Where are we going?" I asked. "You'll see," he said. We didn't go to bars. We went to a climbing gym. I'd mentioned months ago that I wanted to try bouldering. Aiden had laughed and said, "That sounds like something you do when you don't have better plans." Vincent remembered. The gym was loud and alive. Chalk dust in the air, bright holds scattered across walls like candy, people laughing when they fell and cheering when someone stuck a hard route. It was the opposite of the tight, scripted energy I'd been living in. I spent 3 hours climbing until my forearms burned and my fingers felt raw. I fell more times than I want to admit. Vincent kept shouting things like, "Use your legs, Hannah," like he was coaching a rookie in a sport he was born for. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Aiden. I wasn't thinking about Kylie. I wasn't thinking about what this open relationship meant. I was just present. After climbing, we grabbed pizza and wings at a place near the gym. My hands were shaking from exertion when I picked up my slice. Vincent watched me chew for a moment, then said, "Okay, now talk." So I did. I told him how Aiden had started making comments about boredom, about other couples, about me being too practical. Vincent's face tightened. "How long's that been going on?" 6 months, I admitted. Vincent leaned back in the booth, eyes narrowed like he was lining up puzzle pieces. "And Kelsey?" I hesitated. "He's been hanging out with her a lot." Vincent made a sound between a scoff and a curse. "That name again," he muttered. I blinked. "You know her?" "I've met her," Vincent said, jaw set. "She came to that party with Aiden last year, the one where she spent an hour talking about how monogamy is just fear with a ring on it." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. That sounded exactly right. I posted a few photos that night, not because I was trying to make a point. Not only because of that, but because I looked happy. My cheeks were flushed, hair messy, smile real. Vincent snapped a picture of me mid-climb, and I looked like someone who belonged to herself. I posted it. Then I posted a group selfie from our table, me, Vincent, and 2 people we'd met at the gym who'd ended up joining us for wings. It felt easy, like life had been waiting for me to show up. When I got home around 11, Aiden wasn't back yet. I took a long shower, letting hot water pound the soreness out of my shoulders. I put on pajamas, scrolled through bouldering videos, and realized with a weird jolt that I was excited about something again. I went to bed around midnight. He came in at 1:00 a.m., moving quietly like a teenager trying not to wake a parent. I lay still, pretending to sleep. He slid under the covers and exhaled, hard, not relaxed, not satisfied, more like disappointed. Like he wanted something from me that he didn't get. Saturday morning was awkward in the way only forced normal can be. He made coffee like he was trying to be domestic, sat at my kitchen counter, tapping his mug, glancing at me every few seconds. Finally, he asked, "So, how was your night?" I kept my tone light. "Great." His eyes narrowed. "Yeah?" "Yeah, climbing gym, pizza after, met some cool people." His jaw tightened just slightly. "Cool," he said. Then, trying to sound casual, too casual, he asked, "Any women?" I lifted my mug to my lips to hide my smile. "Yeah," I said, "men too. It's a gym, Aiden. People exist." He nodded, but I could see the mental math happening behind his eyes. He thought I'd be home alone. He thought I'd be sitting on my couch, staring at my phone, sick with jealousy, while he played Bachelor with permission. Instead, I'd been out building something new. And the worst part, for him, was that I wasn't doing it out of spite. I was doing it because it felt good. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern set in. Aiden went out with Kylie once or twice a week. He'd come home acting strange, either overly affectionate, like he was trying to cover his guilt with touch, or distant and moody, like he resented me for not falling apart. Meanwhile, I went back to the climbing gym. Twice a week minimum. I started recognizing regulars. There was a group that met on Tuesdays. Easygoing, friendly. They didn't ask invasive questions. They just said, "You coming next week?" Like my presence mattered. I joined a recreational volleyball league on Wednesdays. Turns out life gets busy, in the best way, when you stop shrinking it to fit one person's comfort. One woman on the team, Jessica, was the one who pulled me in fastest. She had this confident energy, like she owned her space without needing to announce it. She was funny in a dry way, and she had her own career, her own apartment, her own rhythm. After our second game, she said, "A bunch of us do a hiking loop on Saturdays sometimes. You should come." Old me would have hesitated. New me said, "Sure, why not?" That Saturday, we hiked 8 miles with a decent elevation gain. We ate lunch at the summit, wind cutting through our jackets, the city below looking small and irrelevant. Someone took photos. I posted one, me standing in front of that view, hair whipped by wind, smile wide. It wasn't curated. It was real. That night, Aiden stared at my phone screen longer than he meant to. I caught him. "Who's Jessica?" he asked, like the name tasted wrong. "A friend from volleyball." His eyes flicked up, sharp. Friend?" I met his gaze and kept my voice gentle. "We're in an open relationship," I reminded him. "It shouldn't matter." The words hit him like a slap made of his own choices. He didn't respond. But I saw it then, clear as day. This wasn't working the way he planned. Because the truth was, the open relationship wasn't making me desperate. It was making me free. And Aiden? Aiden was starting to realize the worst possible thing. I wasn't his backup plan anymore. 3 weeks in, the cracks started showing. Not in us, in him. Aiden came home one night earlier than usual. I was sitting at the kitchen island with my laptop open, planning a weekend camping trip with the hiking group. Maps pulled up, weather checked, food list half written. I barely looked up when the door closed. He stood there longer than normal, keys still in his hand, like he was waiting for his entrance to be noticed. "Hannah," he said finally. I glanced over. "Hey." Something was off. His shoulders were tense, jaw tight. Not excited, not guilty. Upset. I closed my laptop halfway. "What's wrong?" He exhaled hard and dropped into the chair across from me. "Kylie's being weird." I waited. "She keeps asking where this is going," he said. Like, if we're exclusive. There it was. The fantasy collapsing under the weight of reality. I tilted my head. "Didn't you explain the situation?" "I did," he said quickly. "I told her about us, about the open relationship." "And?" "She doesn't like it," he admitted. "She says she doesn't want to be someone's side option." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I nodded slowly. "That's fair." Aiden blinked. "That's it?" "What do you want me to say?" I asked calmly. "I don't know. Support me?" he snapped. "We're supposed to be in this together." I studied him for a long moment. "We're exploring other options," I said, repeating his own words back to him. "Supporting each other through dating problems with other people wasn't part of the deal you pitched." His mouth opened, then closed. "That's cold," he said. "No," I replied. "That's accurate." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through. "I just thought—" "You thought what?" I asked gently. He didn't answer, because the truth was uncomfortable. He thought I would be steady, constant, available, while he experimented. He thought I'd be waiting on the couch, still emotionally invested, still prioritizing us while he explored elsewhere. But that wasn't what was happening, and it was starting to scare him. Over the next week, Aiden became watchful. He started asking questions he never used to ask. "Who are you texting? Are you going out again tonight? Is Jessica going to be there?" Each question was framed casually, but the tension underneath was unmistakable. One night, I caught him scrolling through my phone while I was in the shower. I didn't yell. I just said, "What are you doing?" He jumped like a kid caught stealing. "I was just, your phone lit up," he stammered. "I thought maybe it was work." "Put it down," I said. He did, slowly. The silence afterward was thick. That's when it hit me, hard and sudden. The man who asked for freedom couldn't handle mine. The next confrontation came on a Wednesday. I was lacing up my shoes by the door, volleyball bag slung over my shoulder. "Again?" Aiden asked, leaning against the hallway wall. "It's Wednesday," I said. "League night." "You're never home anymore," he muttered. I paused. "That's interesting," I said carefully, "because you didn't seem worried about that when you were going out." He crossed his arms. "This feels different." "Why?" I asked. "Because now you're the one being left behind." But he didn't say that. Instead, he said, "I just feel like we're growing apart." I met his eyes. "We started growing apart when you decided you needed to see other people," I said quietly. "I'm just adapting faster than you expected." That night, Vincent joined me after volleyball for a late bite. I told him everything. Kylie, the exclusivity talk, the phone snooping. He leaned back in the booth, eyes narrowing. "You know something, don't you?" I said. Vincent hesitated, then sighed. "Hannah, I didn't want to say this unless it mattered." My stomach tightened. "Say what?" "Kelsey isn't just a friend," he said. "She's his ex." The world tilted slightly. "What?" "They dated before you," Vincent continued. "Short, but messy. She stayed friends. You know the type." The pieces slammed together in my head. The comparisons, the dissatisfaction, the sudden urge to experience life, the way Kelsey always seemed to benefit from chaos. "She's been in his ear," I whispered. Vincent nodded. "And now she's watching it blow up." That night, everything made sense. The next day, I tested it. Casually. "So," I said over dinner, "how's Kelsey?" Aiden stiffened. "Just slightly." "Fine," he said. "Why?" "No reason," I replied. "Just feels like she's been influential." His eyes snapped up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said evenly, "you didn't wake up one day wanting an open relationship. Someone convinced you that you were missing out." Silence. Then, too defensive, too fast. "That's not fair." It was exactly fair. 2 nights later, Aiden asked me to sit down. Same couch, same posture, same determined expression. "I want to close the relationship," he said. "This isn't working." I waited. "We're not growing together," he added. "We're drifting." I studied him, really studied him. The man who wanted freedom. The man who panicked when I took it seriously. The man who didn't want equality, only advantage. "And what if I don't want to?" I asked. His face fell. "You don't mean that." "I do," I said softly, "because I like my life right now." The words hit him harder than anger ever could. This wasn't part of his plan. He wanted to reset. I had moved on. And suddenly he understood the truth too late. You can't unring a bell. Once someone shows you they see you as optional, you can't go back to feeling chosen. He sat there silent, and for the first time since this began, I knew the ending was inevitable. Aiden didn't beg at first. That came later. At first, he tried logic, tried nostalgia, tried to sound like the version of himself I fell in love with. Soft voice, careful phrasing, memories sprinkled in like emotional currency. "We were good, Hannah," he said, sitting across from me at my kitchen island. 4 years isn't nothing." "I know," I replied. "It's just not everything." His jaw tightened. "This isn't fair." I let the words hang there for a moment. "Fair would have been talking to me when you started feeling restless," I said. "Fair would have been honesty before lining someone else up. Fair would have been choosing me first." He flinched. That was the moment the denial cracked. The next few days blurred together in that strange limbo where a relationship is technically still alive, but emotionally on life support. Aiden hovered. He cooked, cleaned, asked if I wanted to watch movies, suggested weekend trips, tried to reinsert himself into routines I'd already outgrown. I went to the climbing gym. I went to volleyball. I went hiking. And every time I came home energized and glowing with a life that didn't orbit him, I could see it carving deeper into his chest. One night, he finally broke. He stood in the doorway of my bedroom, eyes red, voice unsteady. "I didn't think you'd be this okay," he admitted. There it was. The truth, stripped of theory and excuses. "You thought I'd struggle," I said quietly. He didn't deny it. "I thought you loved me more," he whispered. I met his gaze. "I loved you enough to choose you every day. You're the one who needed to see what else was out there." He sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped. "I made a mistake." "I know," I said. "And we can fix it," he pressed. "People mess up. We don't have to throw everything away." I took a slow breath. "This didn't break us," I said carefully. "It revealed us." He shook his head, tears finally spilling. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," I replied. "And you did it because you assumed I'd stay." That was the part he couldn't argue with. The following Saturday, I told him it was time for him to leave. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "This is my home," I said, voice steady. "My name is on everything." "Where am I supposed to go?" he asked, panicked. I thought of Kelsey, of her advice, of her fingerprints all over the wreckage. "You've got options," I said calmly. "Isn't that what you wanted?" It was a low blow, and I didn't regret it. He packed in silence, anger and disbelief alternating on his face like waves. Kelsey showed up to help, shooting me looks like I was the villain in a story she helped write. I took my dog, Max, for a long walk around the neighborhood while they boxed up his things. Max was 3. Black lab, constant shadow. Best decision I ever made after buying the condo. He trotted beside me, tail wagging like nothing in the world was wrong. Dogs know. When we came back, the condo felt hollow, but peaceful. Aiden's key sat on the counter next to a note. "I'm sorry, I love you, please reconsider." I threw it away. The next morning, I called a locksmith. Not because I was afraid he'd come back uninvited, but because I needed the ritual. New locks, new chapter. Vincent came over that night with pizza and zero judgment. "How you holding up?" he asked. I surprised myself with the honesty of my answer. Relieved. The weeks that followed were the quietest I'd had in years. No emotional negotiations, no walking on eggshells, no feeling like I had to earn permanence. I cooked for myself, invited friends over, let my condo feel like mine again. Aiden texted, late at night, apologetic, regret-soaked. "I miss you. I didn't know what I had. Please talk to me." I didn't respond, because there was nothing left to say. 2 months later, I ran into him at the grocery store. He looked undone, thinner, tired, like someone who hadn't been sleeping well. We exchanged stiff hellos. He tried to turn it into a conversation. "I think about us all the time," he said quietly. "What we had, it was real." "It was," I agreed, past tense. He winced. "People get back together." "People who break up because of timing or miscommunication," I said. "Not people who treat their partner like a backup plan." "That's cruel," he snapped. "No," I said, "that's honest." He started in on the apology script, blaming confusion, bad advice, Kelsey. I stopped him. "You didn't want me back until you saw I was fine without you," I said. "That's not love. That's loss aversion." His eyes filled. I grabbed my cart and walked away. I didn't look back. 6 months later, my life barely resembled the one I had when this started. The hiking group became my people. Weekends filled with trails, laughter, shared meals. I started documenting the trips with a used camera I bought online. Sold a few prints through a small shop, just enough to cover gym fees. Jessica and I started seeing each other casually. No pressure, no games, no tests. She had her own career, her own apartment, her own full life, and she wasn't looking for permission to want me. The first time she came over, Max brought her his favorite toy immediately. Vincent raised an eyebrow. "That dog has standards." Jessica laughed and played fetch with him in the backyard for an hour while I grilled steaks. Later, she said, "I judge people by how animals react to them." Max approved. That counted. Aiden tried one last time through Kelsey. An unknown number, a guilt-laced plea for closure. I shut it down. "What happened to him," I said calmly, "is the result of his choices." Then I blocked the number. Because here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. You teach people how to treat you. And for too long I taught him that I'd stay. Now, I teach peace. And I don't negotiate it.